So I finished chapter 3 of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This chapter is called Mind Your Own Business. And it's not about ignoring people or being rude. It's simply about something most people never separate: their job versus their business. This chapter really hit on why so many people work their entire lives and they still struggle financially. So let's break down profession versus business. In order to tell the difference, you need to consider the what and the how. Your profession is how you earn your income, and your business is what you own. Most people pour all of their time and energy into their profession, working for someone else, but never actually building a business or another stream of income for themselves. So to become financially secure, Kiyosaki says you have to mind your own business. And your business lives in your asset column, not your income column. So before we hop into this chapter even further, I need to ask you for a quick favor. If you guys can gently hit that like button for me, I really appreciate the support. It helps the channel grow, and it lets me know that you like this type of content. Okay, moving on. So what does mind your own business mean? What I like about this chapter is it doesn't actually tell you to quit your job. It actually says keep your job if you need it, but stop relying on it as your only plan. Minding your own business means consistently building assets on the side while you're still employed. Kiyosaki actually gives us a list of assets to consider. And the key thing here, of course, is that you own them and they produce income and continue to grow in value. Some of the assets that he mentions are businesses that don't require your presence, stocks, bonds, income generating real estate, notes or IOUs, royalties from intellectual property like music or art, and really anything that has value, produces income, or appreciates and has a ready market. He says, if you have to work there every day, it's not a business, it's a job. He also goes ahead and outlines a few strategies that he uses based on the specific type of asset. For example, stocks. When he talks about stocks, he mentions that a lot of people are afraid of small companies and call them risky, which he actually acknowledges they are risky. But he says risk is reduced through understanding, by just knowing the game that you're playing. With small companies, his strategy is often to be in and out in under a year. He says a lot of fortunes have been made through small startup companies, such as IPOs. Next, he touches on real estate. His strategy is to start small and keep trading up to larger properties. So a single family becomes a small multifamily like a duplex or a triplex, and then that turns into an apartment complex, and then that becomes a commercial property. So as you can see, so on and so forth. By doing that, he delays paying taxes on the gains. He also generally doesn't hold property for more than 7 years. Next, this chapter touches on a few barriers he warns us to watch out for. There's a part in this chapter where he talks about not fitting into the system. And this is something that resonates with me because it's something that I go through all the time. As a small landlord, when you're trying to buy new rental properties, you're typically looking at the traditional sources such as your regular banks and maybe local banks. And oftentimes we get denied because our income. And it's not because our income isn't enough. It's just simply because we don't fit into the perfect little box that a regular homeowner would fit into. For example, a regular homeowner is either selling their past home or they don't own a home at all. So there's not huge debts for them to look at and to justify and see if you can afford that house. As a landlord, when you have multiple pieces of property, you have a lot of debt because you have mortgages on those other pieces of property. Not only that, you have taxes. Taxes are another big money game that we have to play every year. So basically every year, as in the stage that we're in now, we have to decide, do we want to buy something this year? Because if we do, we have to play the tax game, which means we have to delay all write-offs so that our income can show higher so we can get approved. If we take too many write-offs, then when we go to buy, the lender, they use our net income as our income minus all the deductions. That really hinders us getting approved. So this section about asset ownership not always fitting neatly into traditional boxes is very true, even though it's actually what builds long-term security. So the key point here is don't let that stop you. There's always another way. There's always another path. Another warning he mentions is one of the most important warnings actually in this chapter is starting a business. We talk about starting a business all the time. It's kind of the go-to or default thing in the money world. But the fact and the reality is starting a business is extremely risky. He actually says he doesn't encourage most people to start one. 9 out of 10 businesses fail in the first 5 years. And of those that survive, 9 out of those 10 eventually fail too. So unless you really want to start or own a business, his advice is to keep your day job and mind your own business by buying assets that still bring you in money. There's another nugget that he mentions in this chapter. The idea that once a dollar goes into your asset column, it should never leave. He tells us to think of our dollars that we invest as employees. The reason why is money works 24/7. And if you do it right, then it can work for generations. He also touches again on the rich versus the poor in certain habits that they have that differentiate the two. One of the things is how they buy things. Poor and middle class people tend to buy luxuries first. Rich people buy luxuries last. This is key. And it brings me to my favorite quote and point of this chapter. The quote goes, "A true luxury is a reward for investing in and growing a real asset." A true luxury is a reward for investing in and growing a real asset. So there are two wins here. On one hand, you get the luxurious experience or luxury item that you actually plan to purchase. And then on the other hand, you get the pride of knowing that you use your financial intelligence to afford that product or experience. And to me, that's just chef's kiss. So that's really it for this chapter. It was actually a short chapter and a super easy read. If you enjoy content like this, if you want to read along, then go ahead and check out the link in the description. This book is available, of course, via paperback as well as on the Kindle. I have both links in the description. It's really a must read. It's easy, it's light, and it's a top seller for a reason. The next chapter is chapter 4, The History of Taxes and the Power of Corporations. We'll pick that up on Monday. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.